Bozeman, who really, for a lot of folks, epitomize Black excellence. So we are going to talk about that topic a little bit. But yeah, are you ready to dig into it?
I'm ready to dig in, boo. Let's do it.
So first, let's talk about the the pressure that folks feel when they are the first or exceptional at something, right? Um, it really feels like you have the whole community on your back when you're in these positions as like the first of something, or you're amazingly talented at something and you're getting recognition from inside and outside of your community, and really does not give you any room to breathe, to fail, to really be a full human.
Yeah, I feel that a lot, especially as a graduate student, as someone in their PhD program. Like I was telling you earlier, I felt like if I decided to drop out of my doctoral program today, tomorrow, I think there's a lot of people in my life that just absolutely would not allow that and would be so mad and be so disappointed, because at this point it feels like it's not Lutzi Segu's PhD, it's the community PhD. And which is why that does dictate like my relationship to my work and the kind of work that I want to do. But all of that to say, when you are, this is the dangers of being the exception. This is the danger of being the only one. And this is the danger of diversity and inclusion that has that one at a time model. Because what happens is, you become the only thing, you are the only representation, then for you and your community, representation takes on a larger than life definition. And what happens is that erases you, that makes you small, it makes you unable to say what you want and what you need. And it keeps you in this perpetual loop of constantly having to produce, constantly to attach your worth to production, which essentially just undergirds notions of anti-Blackness that already says Black people are only as valuable as what they can produce. And what they can produce and can be consumed by society writ large. And so when you, individual Black person, take that on, it just becomes an unbearable cross to bear. And you're just caught in this weird inception, the anti-Blackness inception of like, you're constantly waking up from one dream, finding out you're trapped in this white supremacist dream, waking just to wake up to it's just a constant. And it's just like, you never know. You just never know. And so it's just wearing us down. And so when I heard what happened to Chadwick, I was in a reading bubble and zone. And when I put down my book, I picked up my phone. I was just like, Black Panther? Obviously, I know his life is much bigger than that. However, it just seemed like after the year Black people are having in the middle of COVID-19, when we think about culturally what Black Panther meant for us, for Chadwick in his early 40s to be gone. My mother is a survivor of colon cancer. She was in her 40s when she dealt with it. I don't know, immediately I felt like, oh my God, is this a warning? Is this a premonition? I was just like, oh my God, Lucy. And that morning I had already woke up having really hard and heavy, asking myself heavy conversations around like my mortality, just naturally. Right. And then later on that night to have that book ended by Chadwick's death was, the gravitas of that was big and was deep.
Yeah, and I think that so many conversations were spurred like online and in person after his passing, or I guess at the time of his passing, because it was so unexpected, because people didn't know, because of all that he had accomplished. Here comes this accomplishment, right? Like this accomplished in the last 4 years at the same time that he's dealing with terminal cancer. And then we'll also have to wonder about, like, did it have to be terminal? Right? And so
say more.
So like a lot. So I wonder when folks die suddenly with like underlying health conditions that may have like spiraled out of control or were unknown. The hardest thing for me in like the grieving process is like realizing, was there something that could have been done? And when you when you're overworked, when you have a lot of responsibility, when you are not taking care of yourself because we are not in a society that values rest, um, then yeah, then I do feel like it could have been preventable, or mitigated, or ameliorated, right? So a lot of those things came up for me at that time, and it was a big reality check for me personally, where I was just like, I'm out here grinding all the time,
Yes.
with my multiple hats and doing all the things, and I love it. But also, if I like drop dead tomorrow, like that's it. Like things will continue, things will fall off, the world will keep on turning, and I will be gone, right? And so it definitely was a reality check for me of like, why are you doing the things that you're doing, and is it worth your health, your physical, spiritual, and mental health, right? And it's, I feel like we, because we live in a capitalist system, we glorify productivity to this level that is so pervasive and sneaky, and like just even like girl boss and like all of these things that in our culture that make it cool, fun, hip, relevant, whatever, um to be constantly producing, to be constantly pushing culture forward, to be constantly creating things for people to consume for their free time, right? Like even the feel good things, like the self care, practices and all of these things. It really all feeds the machine, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
really rooted in actual rest and
Mm-hmm.
disconnection or valuing our humanity. It's like, how do we grease the wheels so that we're not creaking to break? It's like just enough to get us to be able to continue functioning, but never actually stopping. Um,
Mm. Mm.
and yeah.
Mm. So Sadia Hartman, like I'm obsessed with this Black scholar, so I mention her name a lot. Sadia Hartman writes about like Black life is marked by two zones of death: social and corporal death. Like, so whether we're dying from a social death because we are not seen by our nation state in a very particular kind of way, or premature Black death. That premature Black death, be it by state sanctioned death, or the fact that we have to survive racism, and what surviving racism, what metabolizing anti-Blackness from the time you understand what race and racism is, what does it do to the inside, which is why I don't believe in microaggression, because public health tells us the concept of weathering, the fact that Black people's internal organs are weathering 7 times, we're aging 7 times faster internally than white people. There's nothing micro about that, which is what happens where everybody gets cancer. Somehow, some way, though, Black people tend to get the cancer that is fatal.
Mm.
So that speaks to, it's not a question of Blackness, it's a question of the conditions under which Black people are asked to survive sets us up for a situation that are preconditions. And the only precondition that we're dealing with is racism. That's it. It ain't diabetes. It ain't the sugar. It ain't the high blood pressure. It ain't whatever. The precondition is racism. And so here we are having to deal with this. Here we are having to deal with this death. And then, you know, I don't know what makes me something that made me sad. What was coming up in the zeitgeist in the comment section, and someone even said it in one of my comments, was like around Chadwick Boseman's personal choice in regards to like, well, maybe he wanted to work that hard at the end of his life. Maybe he wanted to do this, that, and the third. And to me, it's just like, I want Black people specifically to complicate their relationship with the concept of choice as we understand choice in these United States of America. Because what happens is Black people, many scholars, myself included, believe that Black people are not full citizens of the United States. So if we're not seen as full citizens of the United States, what's the condition in which we're making these choices? And we will never know what choices Black people could make if we lived in a society that valued Black life. Because all of our decisions are organized around survival, are organized dodging and leaving anti-Blackness, and are organized around, for some of us, moving against stereotypes that we're lazy and we're shiftless, that even when our body is creaking and our body is saying, sis, sit down, I don't think I can sit down, because the only relationship to my worthiness that I know of, that I've explored, is the one that says I am only as good as what I can produce for others. Or if you're the quote unquote girl boss, you work for yourself, or I'm only as good as what I can produce for myself. And so what happens when we ourselves start to buy into that notion, and we think we buy into the idea that the world will come apart if I rest. And a lot of us don't think we've earned the right to rest, right? Especially for us millennials, right? This is our second recession. Our money situation, just when it was starting to get a little good, our money situation now is back to being trash again. And it's just like, and for the Black millennials specifically, who doesn't have generational wealth to fall back on for many of us, or there are limits to how much that generational wealth what it will do for us. Mm-hmm. It's hard. How do I encourage myself to rest? How do I encourage you to rest when I feel like at any moment anything can go down? At any moment I could become precarious. And so therefore I gotta hustle, I gotta grind, I gotta do what I gotta do. And also there's the state trying to kill me. So I wanna listen to the nap ministry. I want to take a nap. I work from home. I want to work and I want to take a nap. I could count on how many hands I take a nap. And I work from home, and I work for myself. And more importantly, I'm a grad student. Ain't no my dissertation chair ain't going like she ain't coming over. She all the way in Canada. She not gonna ring my doorbell. But at the same time, like for those of us who are descendants of enslaved people, rest, the concept of rest, that's a big one for us to reconcile and deal with.
Well, I mean, even culturally, like I just like think back to growing up. It's like, oh, if you're just laying there, is suspicious. Like it's too quiet. Something must be up in the room. Like, you know, when you're a little kid and your parents don't hear you playing, or like they don't see you come out your room for a while. And it's like, I mean, especially like Haitian parents, it's like, like, what are you doing? What is going on? It's not good. Whatever it is not good, because you're quiet and I don't see you and you're not moving and you're not doing something. And it's like, oh, why don't you go read a book? Why don't you go outside? Why don't you go do something? Like, just the concept of being in an immobile state is deemed bad, right? And then you compound it on like, just we're in this constant state of like doing. All of our language is around doing rather than like, so it's like, how are you doing? What are you doing? What have you been doing? What are you gonna do next? Like everything, the word do comes up in my day-to-day life a gajillion times. And it's like, even the act of resting is an action, right? Rather than a beingness. And like, not to be like, oh, like woo, because I'm not really woo, but like it is striking to see that even how we talk about our lives, and even how we talk about what we like, our futures and our past and our present, it's like really tied into to productively doing something, right? Or consciously making a decision to not be in production. And so it's like, this is the center. And so when we talk about, we keep on saying that like, we live in a capitalist society and it shows up in all these different ways. This is exactly how. And so for me, I'm just like, I have even like found myself of like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm gonna work. I'm gonna work on a side project, work on my work. Like I'm gonna work on something, because it gives me a purpose. It gives me a sense of worth. It gives me like a sense of satisfaction, and that like is rewarded in society by like, oh my gosh, you do so much, and it comes with like acknowledgement and awards and things, and it's again, I go back to it being dehumanizing, because it's like all that is valued is the output, not
right.
And so even when we think of like, I think of one of my favorite podcasts is The Read, and they have a Black excellence segment in the very beginning. And I was like re-listening to some like in preparation for this conversation, And I was like, even the like little kids that like that are
Mhm.
like amazing that get a shout out on Black Excellence, it's because they did this phenomenal thing. It's not
Right.
because they themselves are innately amazing, right? And it's
Yeah.
not to say that they aren't. It's just that is not what they're getting the acknowledgement, the recognition for. So it really ends up being this like, oh, they got like at age 8, they got $1 million in scholarships, and you're just like, what, like great, like that's dope. Like I'm happy for you, but it's like they had value and they had worth before doing that, and those who do not have those things are still worthy. And I think 2020 has particularly highlighted who whose Black bodies are worthy and valuable. And it has also been like a theme throughout our conversations, right? Of like whether it's police killings, whether it's interrelational harm, whether it's jobs and career and progression. It's like, oh, these certain types of people who do these certain things are on the pedestal, are valued, are honored, or are grieved, and others are not.
Yeah, it always I always go back to that line in the Combahee River Collective when they talk about like when they talk about why they wrote that statement. They were very clear that their belief was that Black people are they just wanted to be levelly human. And Black excellence, as beautiful as it is, and on some level it works and it's inspiring, but on another level it does undergird notions that um, what does for Black people to be okay to survive, we have to be superhuman. Which again, if we understand what anti-Blackness is, anti-Blackness is a eugenics project. What do I mean by that? It's obsessed with body, because anti-Blackness, literally, racism literally tells us which bodies are desirable, which bodies are disposable, and which bodies are that we will rally around to protect. So in an anti-Black world, in a racist world, Black people have to be superhuman to survive, which means there is a way in which I am required to be phantasmically abled. I have to be a super Negro. I have to be the man from the Green Mile in order to survive the conditions of white supremacy. And what ends up happening if you understand the material conditions that make up anti-Blackness, that make up racism, what that tells Black people is that we cannot rest, we cannot allow to be sick. Even the concept of disability, Black people are outside of it, because in order to survive white supremacy, I have to be super able. If I admit I have some kind of disability and that I'm somehow weak, then at any moment, premature death will even come even more prematurely, because the monster that is anti-Blackness is going to gobble me up because I'm quote unquote the weakling. So literally, when we think about the ableism that is anti-Blackness, the fact that this Black man had a disability the last 4 years of his life fighting cancer and could not, obviously it was not our business to know, but I wonder if the brother rested enough. I wonder if we are resting enough. Those of us who have conditions that very well earns us the right of disability, but why I know so many Black people, even when we do have things within us that makes us disabled, we don't take on that moniker. We don't ask for those. We don't ask for
Accommodations.
we don't ask for accommodations. We don't ask for anything, because the expectation is I'm Black, therefore I must do, and I must do well. And that is something I think about for myself in my life a lot, as someone who recently had a very serious health scare. To this day, I don't ask for certain accommodations when I know to a certain degree I need them, because as a Black woman who isn't light skinned, who doesn't fit a very particular kind of aesthetic, who is not thin, I am very aware of what people expect ability wise from me. And to be fragile, to be soft, to be weak, or to tell people like I'm tired, my body is worn down, it's just not, that's not the energy people come to me with. And therefore, that's not an energy. It's an energy I'm trying to make become more familiar with, but is a very unfamiliar energy. And I hate that it's an unfamiliar energy. So this is me being super, super, super vulnerable. Like, I'm tired. I want to rest. I need to rest. But in a South Florida context, because South Florida hates Black women's leadership and will do everything in its power to lock us out of leadership, even when the leadership is volunteer and it's unpaid. There is a way that I feel as if because I have to create my own lane of leadership, I do have to do 50,000 things because that is the only way I know to get to the things that I want to get to. So it's
exhausting.
It's exhausting. And I feel the trap of it. I feel it. It makes me sad. It makes me angry. And I want to rest. I don't know what rest looks like right now in this moment in time. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like for any of us under these conditions. And it just makes me so sad that he's dead and he's gone. Yeah, we have his movies or whatever, but he's gone. We're always mourning Black people dying. We're always mourning a loss within us. How many of us right now watching whose bodies have had it, but we can't stop, or we've convinced ourselves that we can't stop. And this is what it means to undo anti-Blackness, internalized anti-Blackness, because that shit is a monster, as you can see.
And it will kill us. And I think, it's hard. It's really, really hard because I feel like we're all guilty of this internalized anti-Blackness. It's like, not only do we not have the compassion for ourselves, but we don't have compassion for other people. How many people are actually thinking this person is carrying a lot? I need to tell them to take a step back, or I need to be offering support, or I need to be encouraging them to question their commitments. No, it's oh, they got it. There's so many spaces that I'm in where oh, well, you got it. It happens. So the work product, the output ends up being created and you haven't keeled over and you haven't complained about it. So I'm not going to say anything. And that's not how we can't continue this way.
It's unsustainable. And people don't care how you get it done as long as you got it done. And
then want to be oh, I had no idea when you're in the hospital.
Right.
In the hospital.
Right. And you know what? Funny that you say that. I was in the hospital and a lot of people, a majority of the people did not reach out to me, did not come see about me. And so I don't wish that on anybody. I don't wish that on any Black woman who is currently watching, that you fuck around and you find out who actually does not care if you live or die. And this also includes other Black people.
Correct. That happened to me in 2014. I had a health crisis. Well, I had a couple of health crises. That in of itself is speaking a lot. And there were people that were extremely close to me that never visited me in the hospital. Besides the text of oh, hey, how you doing? Are you out? No, nothing. And then moved along as if it never happened. And it's not okay. And we can't let that happen either. Right.
Right. And that's what I want to say, right? Okay, so here we are, two Black women who have experienced some very serious health crises. Why are we moving like we haven't experienced no health crises? Why are we moving like we don't have no receipts? Why are we moving like our body has not already told us? Ma'am, come on. And again, so what does it look like to move like we have data? We have data of what will happen when we over push our body. We have data of who and who will not show up for us. Why aren't we vigilantly, just really holding vigil and protecting ourselves in a very serious way? Because both of us are very ambitious. We do have lots of dreams, but guess what? None of that don't matter if you ain't here.
Exactly. And I think we also need to shift the narrative and also just our own internal understanding of what is strength. what is resilience, what is ability. Because honestly, like as a person that, I mean, I have all rights to say that I, you know, have a disability and have received accommodations at different point in my life. And I have like limitations, particularly like in the era of COVID. It was made really clear to me. What is it? The first week of March, my doctor said, you need to stop traveling. You can't be going downtown anymore because you're an at-risk population. And I will write whatever I need to write for your employer, but like you can't be moving like you've been moving. And then like that was a really big moment for me because I was like, oh well, I hadn't been in the hospital like in the last year or two, so like or in the last like year, so I was like, okay. And then it's not okay, like it is not right. And just me moving differently and then seeing or having people react to me of like, oh no, like I'm not leaving my house because I'm a vulnerable population, and like it'd be like, oh, it's not a big deal, or oh, you're being really conservative, or oh, like da-da-da. And it's like
right.
Even right. That, it's like ableist as fuck. Like
again, I want us, if you get nothing else from what I'm saying today, do not divorce the fact that anti-Blackness is ableist. And so the concept of like, oh, you're being too conservative, this, that, and why? Because your Black life doesn't matter. Right. Because again, there are varying degrees of Black life mattering. And what does it look like? If Black life truly matters, what does it look like for us to move as if we live among vulnerable populations? In South Florida, people literally are moving and acting as if we're not living in a global pandemic, not caring about immunocompromised people, not caring about the fact that Black people, brown people, indigenous people are more at risk, just out here all willy-nilly.
Healthcare infrastructure or access. So it is one thing to be living with a disability. It is another thing to be living in a society that does not have a system that can hold you, that does not have an infrastructure that can serve you, and does not have the political will to care about you.
Right, because that's what creates the ableism. Because there's nothing inherently wrong with being disabled. Right. It's the fact that the society is set up in a way to not recognize and hold you. So again, if we know of all these racist preconditions that put Black life in a very precarious situation, what does it look like? Like, I'm not gonna front, when I see my white friends or whatever just moving out and about, traveling, this, that, and the third, I feel a real kind of way, because it makes me feel like if white people were at the forefront of being killed by COVID, I wonder if those people would still vacation and still whatever. So because this is like, it's those people, it's the people who are always at the front line of these crises that are more likely to die from this, I guess, c'est la vie. I'll kind of put on my mask and move about.
We also saw that shift in the government response. In the beginning, when we did not know, we just knew the elderly, and we didn't have any data to prove what particular ethnic groups were being impacted or genders were being impacted. All of a sudden, once we found out that it was Black people and the extremely old, then like it was like, okay, everybody else figure it out.
Right, because in an ageist society, to hear that it's inflicting the elderly,
grandpa and grandma can
right.
In themselves for you.
So in a youth-obsessed culture, that's dangerous rhetoric. In an anti-Black culture, in a xenophobic culture, oh, it's the Blacks. Oh, it's the undocumented brown person. Oh, child. Oh well. Let me continue to come down to the Fontainebleau because the hotel rates are cheap. Let me continue to go to the beach. Let me continue to do this. Let me just go any and everywhere because it's those people. And so it's really frustrating, but I don't want us to get too far away. What do we do with Black excellence?
So bringing it back, I mean, for me, I cannot divorce Black excellence from being superhuman. So I think that's also why we have dedicated this much time to talking about that, because there is no way in operating in a society and systems that were not made for you to be able to achieve, the pinnacle of your career or of your field without sacrifices, and those sacrifices end up being your health and interpersonal relationships. And it's yeah, so there is those who achieve it, and then there's everybody else who does not, and how their life doesn't matter, right? So we care about like, I'm just thinking, like, when I say Black excellence, who do you think about? And also, folks who are watching, when you hear, we're going to do a little interaction. When you hear Black excellence, what comes to mind?
Well, obviously, when I hear Black excellence, you know exactly what I'm with. Blavity Blacks, right? I think of Passport Twitter, LLC Twitter, right? This is like, these are the people, it's just like, right? It's just like, how dare you spend $250 on Jordan when you could when you could get you a passport and you could go to Ghana, and whatever. And so to me, when I think of Black excellence, it's just like Black folks who have internalized anti-Blackness in a weird way, where they feel like that they always have to achieve and be super and duper. They're doing everything in their power to prove to everyone they're not like those Blacks. Those Blacks over there don't have a passport. Those Blacks over there don't have an LLC. Those Blacks over there didn't take their stimulus check and remix it and do this, that, and a third. And so when I think, like, I'm being funny, but when I think of Black excellence these days, that's what I think of. Like, on some level, I also think of Beyonce, Black is King. I think of her and Jay-Z in the Louvre, doing their music video. I think of that. And then I think about, like, even like, I don't know, like maybe last year, this picture went viral with all these Black doctors in the lab coats in front of the slave house. Like, I get what they were trying to say and do. And it's just, it's like, yeah, we don't have to be, and I say this as someone who's very close to getting a PhD, like, so what? That doesn't make me extra special. It's actually, no, it doesn't. What makes me special is because I'm like, I'm Lucy, right? Hello, I'm me, you know? And, but this thing is like always getting accolades. So when I hear of Black excellence, I see you're the Serena Williams of whatever industry you're in, you are the Serena Williams of in that industry. And that's not sustainable, because there's always a Naomi Osaka on her way, honey. There's always somebody on her way, child. Get ready to dethrone you in a very particular kind of way. No shade to my fellow Haitian sister.
But, like, for me, I think of achieving what is impossible, but I also think of excellence. The standard is set by white people. It's not like, it is not Black people saying this is what Black excellence is. It is a Black person achieving something that is deemed unattainable, or is deemed a sign of success and intelligence or hyperintelligence by white people. And so, and it's not to say that, like, sure, awards are great and acknowledgements and all of these things, and I do think that just for human development, like, we need to be able to celebrate the things that we accomplish,
right?
And I don't think there's anything wrong with ambition. However,
clearly,
I was like, this is us. But I also feel like it doesn't give license to then judge or throw away anybody who has not achieved those things. Ooh. Also, knowing that, like, just as easily as you can attain that level, you can easily fall, as we were talking about with Serena Williams. I mean, granted, she's still the GOAT, so I mean,
right? No, that's undisputable, undisputable.
But also, I mean, it was at the expense of a lot of things, like, and also her being Serena Williams, might I add, circling it all back, did not save her from almost dying while giving childbirth and doctors ignoring her. Because guess what? She's still a Black woman. So when we say that Black excellence will not save us,
we quite literally mean it, because even Even Beyonce, who is a major proponent of Blackness and excellence to a point of a little obsession, and I'm a little annoyed by it, low key. She had issues in giving birth to her twins around that whatever. So again, literally being the first, being the GOAT, being Serena, being the second coming of MJ, like Beyonce, being whoever.
Okay, I'm not to dispute the second coming of MJ, but okay.
What you said?
Performance, yes. Vocal ability, no. Come now. No. Don't play my MJ like that.
You ain't gonna have black people showing up to my house. Moving on. Foul, flagrant, honey. Where is the
coming?
Where's the ref? Where's the ref?
Beyonce's in a class of her own. How about we say that?
Ooh, Chile. Oh, the spice level, honey. My God, the picante. My God. Anyways, girl. But like even reaching those levels of superstardom and wealth and whatever does not protect you from the conditions that is anti-Blackness within the United States of America, right? Like even Oprah has a story of that she walked into some high-end store and was treated as if like she couldn't shut down the store.
Right. I mean, also just think about like the vitriol and like hate that Michelle Obama experienced for like as the most overqualified first lady in American history.
Right.
Like she could be president. Like there's no like.
Right.
One would argue that she may have been more qualified. Like anyway, the point being that like none of that actually protects us from white supremacy. None of that protects us from premature Black death. None of that, it feels good in the moment and it can be a point of inspiration for other people perhaps, but like ultimately it is not going to save us.
Yeah. We gotta save us and we gotta kick this addiction from Black excellence. It's not helpful. And obviously just based on all the big emotions that showed up as we were talking about, like how life is so precarious. Here today, mess around, in the next 30 minutes, you gone. Like, so life is so precarious. And so what does it look like for those of us who do believe in Black resistance, who are about Black liberation, that we center rest and taking care of ourselves as part of a liberatory ethic of love, of respecting Black life. And so like, yeah, like how do we encourage each other to be like, yeah, Black excellence is all cool and cute, but guess what? Buddy who's standing in front of the gas station, he's Black excellence too. if he survived to see another day and didn't die under the conditions of white supremacy, that is something to celebrate. And how do we orient ourselves towards an ethic of celebrating Black life? And because life is meant for the living, and so why we not living? Why we just doing?
And for me,
these nonprofits gonna be okay. These jobs gonna be okay. These white people gonna be okay. What, like the culture is gonna be okay if we take a rest. I mean, granted, it might not be as popping, but whatever, we'll pick it up when we get back.
Exactly, after the nap. So like for me, Black excellence, like through this conversation, is really survival. Like you are living another day. You're living another second, you're living another hour. And that's all that we can ask for, because that's already defying all the odds. And there's this, how like there are like these memes and different posts about like, I am my ancestors' dream, or like rooting for everybody Black, and like all of these like sayings that like celebrate our existence. Like I think we need to focus more on that versus because really it is an achievement to breathe.
If you're Black, yeah. And we have to divest from the white gaze, because again, like you said, Black excellence ultimately is dictated and defined by white people, by whiteness. And what does it look like for us to take it back from those racist clutches and just focus on us and celebrate us. I want to celebrate me from the bed, scrolling from the bed, taking a nap. That's what I want to do.
And I think that, like, you were talking about how can we actually rest. And here's the thing. It's like, especially for folks who have been in therapy, it's not just about like doing the body scrub or the bath bomb or the like Manny, I mean, I love, or like the facial and like all of those things. The act of doing them does give us a chance to disassociate and like be super mindful and present, but really we need to go a little bit deeper with this self-care that we're encouraged to do, and this work-life balance that seems really impossible because it's not really what are the things that you can buy to make you feel good. It's about what are the things that you can do to protect and treat your like mental health, your spiritual health, and your physical body to be able to live a long and healthy life. Like, because again, that's what Black excellence is.
Right, because here's the gag, right? This is how we enact capitalism, right? So capitalism already got us messed up out here, telling us we have to grind to death. And then when you're caring for yourself, now you're being told you have to tap into another level of capitalism to care for yourself. So we need to go back to our ancestral mentor, Audre Lorde, that shows us that caring for myself is a revolutionary act. Now, I don't like, we have got to move away from it's only when I get the fresh line up, get my locks retwisted, I get my nails done, I get my Oprah hair blowed out. That's the only time I'm caring for myself. And no, caring for myself, self-care is what do I say yes to and what do I say no to?
Yes.
What do I show up for and whatever. And for those of us who will show up for everyone and their mama, but doesn't show up for themselves, what's that about? There's nothing revolutionary about that. And so how can we go back to the radical ideals of where self-care come from? To me, Audre Lorde is the engineer and architect of self-care. And she was not, and this was someone, also a disabled Black woman, who was fighting cancer, who had a mastectomy, was walking around in the world with one breast, refused to have a prosthesis breast. This was a Black woman who was like, I'm Black, I'm alive, and I'm disabled, and I'm here, and I'm gonna fight, and I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And she talked about relying on community, like the community of women who willed her back to life, her partner, her writing, her everything. And so when I think about revolutionary self-care, to me, it's community rooted. I can't go to Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, or whatever. I can't buy that. That is something I tap into in my community. But guess what? I had to have built that. So are we building maroon spaces among each other where we can rest? Do we have that with each other?
Right. And it also is not, I think you're also hitting on the fact that it is not an insular act. It is not about you doing this in isolation. Rest is not, I didn't leave my house for 48 hours and didn't have any human contact. Rest is also being in community with people where you can release all of the things that you're carrying and be fully present, whether that's in action together or whether that's simply listening, or like feeling and all of the things, engaging the whole like five senses. And so I just think that there's so much work to do, but it's not, I'm not depressed about it. I think when we first got on, I was like in a bit of a state of despair of like the state of the world, and like we're dying, and the obituary will be fire, but like you're still not gonna be here,
girl.
Like I'm glad
the obituary will be fire. I'm mad you said that. I'm mad you said that.
Commercial free, but that is not it. Because like actually, I'd rather you be alive.
I'd rather you be alive, but how do I show that to you while you are alive? Cause you ain't gonna hear it when you gone. Right? Again, I don't know what happens when we're gone, but I don't think you're gonna hear it, right?
Everybody has good like friends that hype them up, right? Like you need to hype up your friends that are taking a nap in the group chat, not just like, oh, you were in this article, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do we show that we value the being versus the doing?
Yeah, I might low key cry again. But like again, like last week, a good friend Maria dropped me off like this whole bag of self-care, and like that to me is just, yeah, you care that my body feels okay. You care that I'm fine. And like, how do we do that for each other? Like, girl, you tripping? I see you sad. Let me bring you some aroma there. She got me some eucalyptus bath salt with whatever.
What? I want
girl.
I know Maria's watching.
Yes, like girl, that is a game changer. I'm officially bougie in these streets because I'm never gonna go back to Dr. Teal's again. Never. It's Whole Foods eucalyptus aromatherapy, baby. No, when I took that bubble bath last week, child, the ancestors was like, yes, girl. And so how do we normalize that? How do we normalize, like, I'm proud of you for being in the New York Times bestseller, and I'm like, hey girl, I see you scrolling, it's kind of late, it's bedtime, boo. Go to sleep.
I also have had friends do that. Like, it's funny that you say that because I had the most unexpected gift on Saturday. Saturday was like a pretty hard day because that was when I was really like thinking about like, why am I doing all of these things if I'm gonna die anyway? So in the mail I get my friend Emma. We've been friends since high school. Like she just straight up like mailed me things. Like I call it like happy mail. Normally my happy mail is things that I buy for myself.
Right.
But I like getting like I got rose like rose and this scarf that was made in Uganda, and like the percent like things that like I would actually like of the percentage, like the money goes to the village.
Right.
I was like, we need more of that. And it doesn't mean that you need to like physically buy, like not to be
capitalist,
like,
right?
Capitalist and like think that like, oh, you need to buy something for somebody else to make them feel seen. But it is like mailing them like an unexpected like note, or like people, I mean, although in the post office, who knows when we're gonna get it, but it'll be a surprise when they finally do get it. So like mailing somebody something, or like a drive-by, right? Like if you're in the neighborhood, just be like, hey, like come outside your window and I'll like socially distantly wave at you. Like there are so many things. Again, like people's love language is different, right? So it's not just like gifts, but it's like acts of service and quality time, and I forget affirmations, and I'm missing one, but physical touch, which I wouldn't really recommend in the time of COVID, but hey. So,
I don't know, girl. I don't know. I might be reaching my breaking point.
But there's so many things that you can do to actually make people feel seen and valued.
Especially when they didn't do something exceptional. I think that's the part that's really making me sad and weepy and feel so loved. It's just like, this person heard the stress that I was feeling or whatever, and was just like, look, I can't fix what you're sad about, because what you're sad about is systemic and structural. Right. I can't fix it. But what I can do is I can help you create some ambiance of relax and love and care. And how do we remind each other to be human? How do we remind each other to go back into our bodies, settle, and be there? How do we do that? How do we lovingly remind each other, like, you could say no and you should say no to that, whatever you're about to whatever, and like your worth is not inextricably tied to that. And if you don't show up to that panel, you don't show up to that thing, that doesn't, you'll be okay. You will be fine. You don't have to hustle all the time.
And I think, and you talked about this earlier, it I mean, we can't minimize the fact that like folks really feel this need to work harder and smarter than anybody else. And if they're caught slipping, then their entire existence, expertise,
Cha.
will be questioned. So like that's also real. And it's like, oh, like I've definitely been in moments of like, oh, if I don't do this thing or if I'm not on this panel, then like, but who's gonna bring the Black perspective or who's gonna do the thing? And feeling
who's
like,
gonna bring the Black perspective? And that's the problem now. That's the problem. That's the problem.
I know.
That's the problem.
But it is hard. Like my point is like, it is also easier said than done. Okay. I struggle with this. And it also, it does feel like, well, I'm the only person that they know to tap. And if I don't do it, it's not gonna happen. So
man, but you know what though? Man, I rebuke that. Because you know what? You drop dead tomorrow, all of them people, yeah, they gonna send flowers to your mama, this, that, and the third. But at the end of the day, it's gonna be your mama crying. It's gonna be your people. It's gonna be your good friends sad and messed up. And so it's just like, see, this is where we just gotta say, who cares? Ain't no Black perspective. That's the problem. That's the problem. I need to say no and I need to rest. And I don't know. It's just like, at what point do we stop struggling with something and be working towards implementing something, doing something different?
Yeah.
So if Chadwick Boseman, we're having this conversation about Chadwick Boseman, about like how, whatever, we're constantly talking about premature death, then at some level, Chris, we gotta live like we know what we know.
Right.
And what does that mean? Again, that doesn't mean tomorrow I go dark, because like personality-wise, that's just not gonna work for me.
I don't know what I would do with my time.
Yeah, so, that's not gonna work for me. However, what does strategic yeses look like and empowered no's look like? What's my strategic yes and what's my empowered no? And at the same time, to a certain degree, some people shouldn't look at us as their steady eddies. Oh, I know Krystina's gonna say yes to this. I know Lucy's gonna. It was like, actually, no, girl. No, catch me on the next go round.
Right. Yeah. Are there any comments in the chat?
I don't know.
Okay, so I see capitalist self-care that I love but many can't afford. So true.
Repeat that again.
No, that like capitalist self-care that I love many can't afford. And that is the thing of why we need, like, self-care should not be rooted in purchasing things. No. Because not everybody can.
Right.
That in of itself perpetuates capitalism.
Right.
And the same thing with doing things. Not everybody is able-bodied, so not everybody will be able to be soaking in a tub for an hour because they have a catheter or something else, right? So there's so much. I guess the moral of the story is, Black people, if you're listening, take care of yourself. You all you got. We all we got, but you all you got. And if you're not here tomorrow, there's a lot of people that are going to be sad. And not that you got to, that's a whole nother, like, I'm not going to give y'all that speech, but like, take care of yourself is the moral of the story. Secure yourself. And secure yourself can't only look like answering 50,000 emails and constantly being on call. Securing yourself, it's just like, what does it look like to like watch something nourishing for your soul, getting some good food, calling a homie you haven't talked to and talking an hour and a half, 2 hours on the phone and laughing, like deep belly laugh. Spending time with your family, like for me, that's my thing. If I'm like, even if it's like for an hour and like, we're bullshitting, but like it's something that will take me outside of, take yourself outside of the grind and the hustle, and like you can't hustle yourself into an early grave.
Yeah, and here's the sad truth about it. The way anti-Blackness is set up, we could never work hard enough. We're never going to be accomplished enough. We're never going to work hard enough. We're never going to feel like we have enough money in the bank. That's the point. That's the point of it all, to keep us in this perpetual loop of feeling as if we're not good enough and we're not doing enough, but we have to rebuke that. As we have to, our ancestors could not possibly have survived just so that we could become our own overseers on the plantation.
Mm-mm-mm.
Rebuke that, people.
Liberation.
Black people, there's nothing liberatory about that. There's nothing cute about that. Fire the overseer in your head. Take a break. Take a break. Take a break. Take several. We already working from home. Do what you need to do. Them people gonna be all right. Them emails gonna be okay. Unless you're working in it, unless the work you do is crisis, we have to stop acting like everything we do is a crisis. No. That if everything in your life feels like a crisis, you need help. Because that's unsustainable and that's not okay. And I'm saying this as a social worker. Everything should not feel like a crisis. As someone who used to work in a domestic violence shelter where we would go on lockdowns because there was a crisis, because someone's abuser was outside of the game. Like, I know what. So again, important, urgent. Everything is not urgent.
And even urgency is not a life or death situation. So even this concept of urgency, we need to unpack, because I had to check myself recently. I was like, I am not dealing in life or death. I did not become a doctor or a healthcare worker or a social worker because I could not have somebody's life in my hand on top of managing my own life.
Come on, somebody. Like, yes. So as people who are part of the professional,
urgent,
right,
life-threatening.
Right. So for those of us who can afford to work from home, we are part of the professional and managerial class perspective. Chill out, boo. Chill out. It's not that deep. It's important, but even the importance, there's gradients to that. Chill out and take care of yourself, whatever that means. And your people, the people who love you, want you around. You want to be around, so act like it.
And that's the thing is this constant quest for achievement and excellence to what end, right? So if you're
to the grave,
right, it like, when does it end? What is going to happen when you get there? And I think that's one of the
it ends when you in the casket hitting one of these poses.
No, you need like think about what does it mean to arrive? What does it mean to get there? What does that look like? What does that taste like? What does that feel like? Because like, you gonna pass it and you're gonna keep on hustling.
Ooh.
And then what?
Ooh. Like, can you imagine how sad that is? You work so hard to get a thing, and when you finally got the thing, you couldn't even enjoy it. Like, so I remember years ago, Oprah gave an interview. She was talking about like how, when she was talking about how she knew she needed to leave the Oprah show, she said someone told her a story about Michael Jackson. And I know he's a controversial figure. He's come up twice in this conversation, but
which like, is also strange, not intended, but
it's right. But however, what she said is just like now this is someone who made Thriller, but he never enjoyed the fact that he made Thriller, never accepted that he made Thriller, and tried to everything he did afterwards to make it into Thriller. And that's when she realized, like, I've made Thriller, the 25 years of the Oprah show,
right?
And I like May say, leave while you're on top. I get Kanye said that. Leave while you're on top and just go about your business. And so, if we're gonna hustle hard to build these things, at the very least, when we actually do hit the summit and the peak of the mountain, if we can't take a long, expansive view and be like, yo, I built this, I did this, I did this with my friends, I worked hard, that mentorship helped me, that fellowship helped me, that this, that, and the third, then that's sad. That's sad. And so if we're gonna work, let's work hard. Yes, we have to. Let's celebrate our wins. Let's rest when we need to do. And at the same time, take stock of what you've already built, what you've already done, and understand that if you made Thriller once, the likelihood that you're gonna make it twice in this lifetime is just not sustainable. And you don't owe us that. You don't owe us that. You don't owe us that. Because again, here's what I realized with Black people and Black women in particular. Even our mediocre is an A-. So literally, we can take it down a couple of notches. And our mediocre, us being mediocre is still top notch, and someone's top notch is mediocre. So chill out. So I'm gonna be quiet. We've reached our hour, and that's it.
On that note, yeah, we're gonna leave it there.
All right.
Until next time.
Bye, y'all. Be good.